Rough Edge FM. Irritatingly irresistible internet radio at roughedgefm.com.
Now it's time for Backseat Mogul with R. Scott Bolton. He talks about showbiz because showbiz won't talk about him.
Showbiz is a cruel and shallow money trench, a long plastic hallway where thieves and pimps run free and good men die like dogs for no good reason. There's also a bad side.
This is the Backseat.
Now it's time for Backseat Mogul with R. Scott Bolton.
You just can't, no matter what, something's going to go wrong. We had two earlier starts for the show that I forgot one thing, one little button that I was supposed to click, and I didn't click it. So we had two false starts. And then we finally get the right start. And what happens? I forgot to turn off the loop, which should, by the way, StreamYard, the loop should be off in default. And then we can turn it on. So make a note of that, would you? Thanks, folks. This is the Backseat Mogul Show live here on Rough Edge FM. Now we sound much better, Johnny. There's no echoes going on. And there's also no picture of us because I forgot to do that too. There we are. Hi. I'm R. Scott Bolton. That's Johnny D. And yeah, so anyway,
Hi, Scotty.
what?
Hi,
No,
folks.
let's put John's microphone on. That will also help amazingly. So, okay, I think that we're finally ready to go. It took us a half hour this morning to get ready because I forgot one little button. One button.
And what else did you forget?
Why are you, there's no sound coming? Still in the mall microphone. Try that again, John.
And
There's John.
what you forgot in the beginning, you forgot breakfast.
No, I did not. Oh, no, I did not.
Oh, you
John texted me last night and he said, hey, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to take me over to the Hertz place to pick up a car after the show. I said, okay, but you're buying breakfast. And he conveniently, I didn't get that text. Yeah, sure, buddy.
Well,
sure.
Okay. The last time that I texted you about last night, I said, tell Shelly, I said, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That was at 6:11 p.m.
Uh-huh.
At 6:23 p.m., you responded with, yeah, she says you bring breakfast.
So how has it come I forgot breakfast when obviously you're too lazy to look at your messages?
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Okay. But anyway, we scored because we had some Fruit Loop bars
Woohoo!
in here in
So
the studio.
good.
So we
So
had
good. So good. So good.
a
So
fruit.
good.
It might even be healthier for us than the Jack in the Box sandwiches or tacos we ended up eating.
And,
So
and the thing is, how long have they been in that box?
don't ask, don't tell.
Okay.
Nobody wants to
They
know.
still taste good.
They're okay. They're not stale yet.
I got to tell you, these are almost like Twinkies. They don't go bad.
Okay, that's a myth. Twinkies do go bad.
Oh, I know.
Have you ever had a Twinkie that's like 6 months old? It's like all dense and cakey, and I mean, it's not going to hurt you. But
okay, you remember when
oh god, this is going to be a
Hostess
bad story.
You remember when Hostess decided, okay, we are no longer.
they shut down? Yeah.
Well, I was at I think it was either Costco or Smart and Final. I can't remember which one it was. You could buy a whole bunch of them. So I bought a whole bunch of Twinkies and a whole bunch of
John, have you ever heard the Motorhead song? Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
well, yeah, probably because these things are gonna no longer. Well, I forgot that I bought the Twinkies, and I was going through some stuff, and I'm going, oh, cool. It was like a year later, and I opened up one of them. And go, actually, it tasted pretty good.
They're
It was
different,
kind
though.
of shriveled, but it tasted
They
good.
do. They get dense and whatever.
But it still
And
tasted
it's kind of
good.
pitiful that both of us know that. But it's true. It's like yesterday I came home and I thought, you know what? I'm going to make me a Spam sandwich. I haven't had fried Spam in so long, mainly because my wife has to leave the house if I fry Spam. But I found a can out in the garage and it'd been out there for, I don't know, a year, 2 years. And I thought, is it still any good? It expires 2025. So it's still really good. The problem that, and the thing with Spam is that as long as the can's not swollen or something, It's actually good indefinitely, but it may not taste as good. That's what they warn you. Because so it might be.
That's just like when you get these not MREs, but government canned whatever, whether it's stew, spam, whatever. If something that was canned for the government, comes in a green tin.
Yeah.
You open it up and God, it's still good.
Yeah. It'll last forever in a can. That's the thing about canned foods. As long as there's no infection, then it's okay. But if it's canned swollen or something like that, don't do it.
You remember that time when we did a Samus and we ended up going from
Samus, by the way, was an event we did for 25 years in celebration of this comic Sam Kinison. I wanted to tell you that because John didn't.
Well, I was.
You interrupted me. You can't assume everybody knows what Samus is.
But you interrupted.
Samus was.
Yes, and maybe we might have a little reunion of 3 of us.
I doubt it.
Man, one time we had 20 members, and one of them was from Europe.
That's right. Yeah, it was fun.
That was our first one.
Yeah, after 25 years, I said I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. I just let's just go on vacation somewhere. I'm not. Yeah,
we did have a lot of fun, but one particular time,
it's still going on about this.
We went to. We were going to Laughlin. And we decided we were going to do a day trip, and we went into Arizona.
Dinosaur caverns.
Yeah. And we saw that stuff that was a whole bunch of, for fallout, if there's a nuclear fallout, it was like a shelter down there. It was
a fallout shelter.
And they had all this stored government surplus.
And a mini mountain of spam.
Oh, yeah. And I bet you it's still there, and I bet it's still good. Because it's down in that cold.
It's still edible. I don't know how the flavor is, but it's like they said, as long canned food will last forever. It's indefinite.
As long as it's not swollen.
As long as it's not swollen, and as long as it's not, you're not expecting great flavor because the flavor fades away. I read a book recently.
Salt's for.
I did salt and everything. That's right. Just add hot sauce. That works to everything. What was the book I read recently? It was The Terror. It was a book by Dan. I'm sorry, Dan, I can't remember your last name right now. It's too early in the morning. Anyway, it's about a couple of ships that are trying to traverse a passageway that leads through the North Pole. It's never been done before in this case because it's the early or late 1800s, whatever it is. But anyway, they get stuck in the ice up there, and they're not too worried about it because they have 2 years worth of food that they bought from this canned company. Dan Simmons. Thank you. Dan Simmons. Great writer, by the way. And that's a terrific book. So anyway, they're up there for they're stuck in the ice, and, they may be stuck up there for 6 months, 7 months, a year, but they're not too worried about it because they have canned food that will last them 2 years. So they think they'll eventually break out of it and be okay. Well, unfortunately, there's some kind of creature on the ice that keeps coming forward and killing the men one by one. And then they find out that the company that canned their food did it the cheap route, and the cans leaked, and half of the food is no good. So all of a sudden they're like, wait, now we got no food and we got this monster eating on us. It's not a good thing. Great book. Dan Simmons is a great writer. If you get a chance to read any of his stuff, I highly recommend it. All right. So let's get to the Backseat Mogul show. Wednesday night, my son and I went out to Valencia to the IMAX theater there, and we saw the new Godzilla -1. Now, let me give you this little caveat before I continue. I am a huge Godzilla fan. I've been a fan of the Godzilla since I was a little kid, and to this day, I love the Godzilla movies. They're just a lot of fun, and I like the character. Characters changed a lot.
Oh, I just had can you imagine Godzilla dressed up as one of the KISS members? So moving on,
we went to see the Godzilla -1. Now, when Godzilla first came around, he was not a nice guy. The story was an anti-war story about the horrors of war, and Godzilla was kind of the atomic bomb of the movie. He's just a big lumbering, house-crushing dragon, and over the years he's changed. In the American films, he's usually the hero. He's the good guy. And the Godzilla movie, Godzilla versus Kong, he was the good guy. And by the way, anybody out there who thought Kong was going to win that battle, you were just wrong. Godzilla's king of the monsters. It says it in his title. By the way, the new Godzilla movie, which is Godzilla X Kong, I think they team up together to fight a giant orangutan. What are you doing over there, John? Are you writing down every word I'm saying for the show notes?
No.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Nothing.
He's probably drawing Godzilla for the show notes. That'd be my guess.
Oh, no, we'll do that one now.
So anyway, we went to see Godzilla Godzilla -1. And let me tell you a little bit about the movie before I tell you what we thought of it. It's interesting because the director of this movie had done special effects, apparently fan films, special effects of his own of Godzilla, and they were really impressive. And the story that I heard, and I don't know how true it is that Toho called him and said, Toho being the original producers of the Godzilla movies, called him and said, hey, did you want to do a Godzilla movie? And what would you say if you were a fan of that movie?
Duh.
Yeah, I'm in. So he agreed, and he made his movie. Now, the budget for Godzilla vs. Kong, the last American Godzilla movie, was between $150 and $200 million. Very expensive movie. The budget for Godzilla -1 was $15 million. $15 million. 10% of what Godzilla vs. Kong. You wouldn't know it from looking at the screen. You watch that movie and you think you're looking at another $200 million production. The special effects are awe-inspiring. They will just make you drop your jaw. And all the Godzilla elements are there. You got the great Godzilla theme. You got the great Godzilla special effects. You got the great Godzilla sound effects. You got oodles of destruction, ships, houses, cities, everything's being destroyed by another bad Godzilla. This is not a good Godzilla. And the reason for this is what happens is that the Japanese lose World War II. This takes place just shortly after World War II. Look at John trying to get away with finishing his drawing. And the Japanese are a broken people. They're like, we lost this war. Our houses are destroyed. We're trying to just eke a living out of whatever we can. And they're broken because they lost the war. Well, along comes Godzilla stomping on their city, and it gives them all something to get together again for, to unite for, to fight against. So they have this common enemy who if they defeat it, will give them back their hope and their lives. So they get together to do that. And the thing that makes this subplot so important is that these are real breathing characters. These are characters you can relate to. The subplot in any Godzilla movie is really the key to a Godzilla movie. Most of the time, there's silly things about aliens trying to take over the planet or whatever. In this case, it's about, in particular, this kamikaze pilot who just couldn't bring himself to do the kamikaze act. So he faked plane engine problems and landed somewhere else where he was relieved of his duty. Well, he returns home after being a failed kamikaze pilot, and everybody hates him. It's his fault the Japanese lost the war. If only he had done his duty as a kamikaze pilot, maybe things would have been different. So he's kind of hated by the community around him. He vows to make up for that. And when Godzilla comes lumbering into town, he realizes that this may be the time that he can become a kamikaze again and do some damage to Godzilla. But now he's got kind of this makeshift family. This woman who he's met, who has a little boy who's not hers, somebody she picked up after the war. And maybe he doesn't want to die. Maybe he wants to live for them. So you've got that going on in his head. It makes it for a very interesting story, much more interesting than aliens trying to take over the world, and gives this movie a depth that no Godzilla movie has ever had. Even the first one hasn't had the depth that Godzilla -1 has. And that's why, if you look at the Rotten Tomato ratings, I think that the critics are at 97% good reviews. The audience was at 98% good reviews last time I saw it. A couple of the reviewers actually said, not only is this the best Godzilla movie, this is one of the best pictures of the year. Did you ever think you'd hear that about a Godzilla movie?
No, not at all.
It's impressive. So the other thing that's impressive is, again, the budget was $15 million. It's already grossed $23 million in Japan, and it looks like it's going to gross about $15 million this weekend here in the States. So it's a smash hit. Doesn't matter what. And that's why I think when Toho saw this, the last Godzilla movie that was out was Shin Godzilla. And they did one of those Fathom screenings where they only had one night. Mm-hmm. And it was a one-night screening, and then it went away. It was just one evening screening. Toho said, you know what? We're actually going to distribute this one. We're going to put this one out in theaters and let it run because we think it's going to gross much better. And it'll probably end up about $25-30 million here in the States, plus the $23 million in Japan, plus whatever else it makes in the world. It's a smash hit. So whether you're a Godzilla fan or not, if you like disaster movies, I would really recommend Godzilla -1. It's got much more heart than any other Godzilla movie. It's got the baddest Godzilla you've ever seen. He is just a nasty. He's actually a little scary in this. When's the last time you saw Godzilla scary? Been a while.
I was going to say probably the very first one.
Exactly. And that's the other thing that's kind of cool about this. You can tell which era this filmmaker believes is the best Godzilla, because Godzilla's not like nimble. He walks through the town slowly, stiffly, his feet crushing everything in his path. And the filmmaker uses makes good use of that, especially in IMAX. When Godzilla takes a step, you feel the theater shake, and that's what you should feel.
Oh, sweet.
And the other thing he does that's brilliant is he uses the original 1954 score. So when Godzilla's coming, you hear that Godzilla music, and it's just riveting. It's terrific. I really loved it. So like I said, if you're a Godzilla fan, do not miss it. If you're not a Godzilla fan, go see it as a disaster flick, because it works that way as well. Plus the whole sub story with the family and the kamikaze pilot and everybody around them. It's really very good. So can't say good enough stuff about Godzilla -1.
Big question about Godzilla. Was Godzilla based on a book, or was it just somebody wrote a storyline?
I don't know the answer to that. There was recently a publication that was released by a college somewhere, and it's the original Godzilla and Godzilla Returns stories, translated for the first time. But I don't know where they were translated from. Were they translated from a book that came after the film? My hunch is that the book came after the film. I think the film was a one-off and unique. And by the way, Raymond Burr was not in the original.
Yeah.
The original was a Japanese movie that they cut 20 minutes out because it was too scary and because it bragged on the United States. So they cut it out and put him instead.
Have you ever seen the original?
I have, yes.
All right.
It's much better. It is much. I mean, I like the 1954 Raymond Burr version too. Don't get me wrong, but the other one is it. The whole point of that movie was to be anti-war, and the original Japanese version without Raymond Burr is very much so. Makes this point much clearer.
Speaking of Japanese, this new version, is it in English or is it subtitled? Or
at the moment, it's in Japanese with subtitles, English subtitles.
Okay.
Yes, which I believe is the only way to see a movie that's shot in a foreign language. I always want to hear the original actors' voices, whether I can understand them or not. It gets frustrating sometimes. I watched a movie. What was that? What Shell and I were watching? We were watching it on TV, and the subtitles only worked part of the time, and it was a foreign language movie. So there were scenes, 3-4 minute scenes, where we couldn't understand what they were talking about, and it was a little frustrating. Now, was it Spielberg who did that with one of his movies? I want to say yes. In one of his movies, he intentionally did that. He wanted the actors to give you the emotions of what was going on in the scene without you understanding what was going on. So the other thing that Josh told me that was interesting, and I can't remember what movie this was, but he said that he was watching what movie were we watching? Oh, I think it was The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. And in the beginning, there's Russians chasing a dog, trying to shoot the dog because they know there's a monster in it, right? Well, if you speak Russian, what the Russians say gives away the whole movie. But if most of us don't understand Russian, so there's no subtitles for that part. The Russians are just yelling, and if you know Russian, it's like, oh, that's what this movie's about.
Okay, big question, and you know me, I have to correct you when I think that you're wrong. I don't believe it was Russians. I think it was Swedes or.
So what you're telling me is that
people from Norway, Norwegians.
So what you're telling me is that it's important for you to correct me when I'm wrong, when it really doesn't matter.
Well, matters to me.
I just said it doesn't really matter.
Hey.
Right.
When you were talking about The Terror.
Yes.
And that is based on a book.
Yes, which is based on a true story.
Books, if you have Amazon.com,
segue.
you can go to Amazon.com and look up R. Scott Bolton, author. And if you have Amazon Prime, you're going to get free delivery of Scotty's books. And great Christmas gifts. The most recent is called Death in the Mogul. Oh, it's a great book. And if you're looking at the screen, because we are live, aren't we live on YouTube? Yes. Yep. That is the latest. Now, Scotty has a plethora of books.
Well, plethora, that's a great word.
Hey, did I use it right?
That's not even a word, but I like the way plethora is what you meant.
Oh, you're going to use my word.
Plethora, but I'm going to use that word.
You got my permission to use that. Anyway, Scotty has some great books, and as always, my favorite is Dead Dick. But there's Death in the Mogul, which, like I said, is the most recent. There's a book that takes place. We were off air. We were talking about Hawaii. There's a book that takes place in Hawaii called Begin Rumble Strip. There's a host of books. Look them up. R. Scott Bolton books. You will be so impressed. Speaking of books, how did your novel writing month go?
Well, I finished 50,000 words on my birthday, the 27th. And
by the way, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. That's the book I was writing, Miser Hills. It is about a small town up north, a little bit north of Valencia, and the people that are part of that town, and some eerie things, not eerie things. It's a crime novel, so it's not eerie things. It's weird things going on in Miser Hills. I got my 50,000 words plus. I think I'm at about 52,000 words right now, but I got at least 10 chapters more to write. So it's probably the longest book I've ever written. I also think it's the most character driven book I've ever written. Most of my books are definitely plot driven, but this one is character driven. So we'll see how it works out. It might be crap. I don't know, but I'm going to give it a shot.
What was the book that you wrote, which I don't think you published it yet, was about the plane that crashed?
There's John's favorite book.
Yeah, it's a great book.
That was that's the book that I think is my best book. That is Losers Weepers.
Yes.
And we'll be getting that out very soon. The next one, though, is March. It's going to be Bowling Bag in the Backseat, which will be out this March. And then, maybe Losers Weepers in November.
That was, I enjoyed doing that one. I had to keep going back because, wait a minute. I quite enjoyed doing that book.
You're talking about Losers Weepers?
Yes.
It's a little more complicated plot than most of the things that I've written, but also it makes me think of, I kind of based it in Bishop, California. It's not Bishop, it's a different town, but Night Haven, I think I called it. But it's every time I go to Bishop, it reminds me of things because there are things there that I used as my as the events in my head were taking place at those places in Bishop.
Well, wasn't it Stephen King who said, if you're going to write a book, write about what you know?
Yeah, but I don't agree with that. Everybody attributes that to me. They say, oh, you've told me that. I've never said that. I don't believe that. I think you can write about what you don't know and research it and do that. And, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that proves that I'm dead wrong. But
well, most of the stuff that I've read that you've written takes place in areas that we both know.
Well, that's one thing. I always use actually everything that I've written takes places that we know. It's just that I change the names sometimes in places. But yeah, that does, that's not necessarily what I guess that is what I know because I know the areas, but I've never been a detective. I've never been in a single engine plane. All these things that occur in my books, I research them and find out what they're about.
Speaking of what what we both know, for the most part, Lake Doris is no longer. The buildings are still there, but they're graffitied over.
It's going to change. You read the book.
What?
That's going to change. You read the book.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, don't give anything away.
No, I'm talking about in real life.
But real life doesn't matter.
Oh, it means I'm not really here.
That's the whole word. The word fiction is what my books are.
So you're saying
fiction.
I'm fiction?
No. I wish you were.
Anyway, go to Amazon.com, look up R. Scott Bolton, author, and look at his, check out his books. Like I said, they make great Christmas gifts. And I am looking forward to the next book that I get to proofread.
And that's coming soon. The Godzilla is going to be like number 3 at the box office this weekend. Number 1, of course, is going to be the Beyonce movie. Nobody's going to be surprised by that. One movie that's not doing as well as they hoped was A Silent Night, which is an action adventure movie written and directed by John Woo and starring Joel Kinnaman. Both of those guys are reasons for me to go see a movie. I think Joel Kinnaman's amazing. I think that John Woo's one of the greatest action directors who ever lived. Here's the synopsis from RottenTomatoes.com. A gritty revenge tale of a tormented father who witnesses his young son die when caught in a gang's crossfire on Christmas Eve. While recovering from a wound that cost him his voice, he makes vengeance his life's mission and embarks on a punishing training regimen in order to avenge his son's death. Now, the synopsis there gives you an idea of some of the people's problem with the movie, because apparently after Joel Kinnaman and his son are shot, he can't speak anymore. So he's silent all the way through the movie. Apparently, so are many of the other people. Many of the other people in the movie are quiet as well. It's almost a non-dialogue film in total. And as you can see, the audience, we don't have an audience rating on it yet, but the critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes is 59%, which is just below what they consider a good rating. I still want to see it because I think John Woo can do a movie without dialogue. I think that John Woo is the kind of director that can make that movie pop anyway.
Well, it seems like we've had a few other movies, and I'm not going all the way back to the silent film.
That would be a big mistake.
Yeah. But in the last 10 years, maybe a little bit more, haven't we had a few movies that they're not supposed to talk because aliens might be coming after them or something like that?
Well, there's A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen either of those, which I know is embarrassing. I really should see those.
There's two, Quiet Place 2.
Yeah. That's how sequels usually go.
Oh, well, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but I think the critics' consensus tells me this tells me to see this movie, according to Rotten Tomatoes. It says Silent Night reaffirms that an action movie doesn't need much dialogue if the set pieces are solid enough, and that even second-tier John Woo can be worth the price of admission. I'm in. Let's go. Let's go see that movie. So, unfortunately, not doing well out there. And that's too bad. But actually, and I have to be honest, I think the marketing might be a problem here, because I thought this was a streaming movie. I didn't realize it was in theaters until I saw that it was in theaters. So that might be,
of course, if you have enough Coke Zero and big tub of popcorn, you can sit through any movie. I
don't disagree. I had a giant popcorn and a giant Coke Zero at the Godzilla, and it got me all the way through.
Well, that's what I said.
You know what's funny? We went to see
Flowers,
Killers of the Flower Moon. And neither one of us got up for the entire 3.5 hours. We made it all the way through.
Except for me in the very beginning.
Well, before
the movie started, because somebody caused me to spill my big tub of popcorn.
Yes, and somebody being John DeRuvo.
Yeah,
in case you were wondering.
Johnny D,
that'd be me. I can't believe I'm going to tell you this story. I really shouldn't even tell you this.
Don't touch me there.
No, you got to stop bringing that up, John. You can't bring it up without context, and it sounds horrible. So please don't bring that up again. It's an old story about my son making a joke on my brother. That's it. Please don't bring it up again.
I will.
Please don't bring it up again. So we sat down at Godzilla -1, and it's an IMAX theater, but the seats are a little tight. And so my son and I are sitting there, and we're all cramped together. And he goes, "You know what? Maybe nobody be in that seat next to you. Can you move?" I said, "Yeah." So I got up and I moved over one, but I had my popcorn sitting in that seat. And when I reached over, I knocked it over, lost about a quarter of my popcorn. And the first thing I thought of was, I can't ever tell John this story, because I was giving him crap about spilling his popcorn. And the first thing I did is spill mine. Anyway, Silent Night. I'm going to go see it anyway. It's John Woo. John Woo is an amazing director. Like I said, Joel Kinnaman is in it. I love Joel Kinnaman. And I'm looking forward to seeing it no matter what these, but I guess I better go see it soon.
It's got a lot of a lot of movies nowadays have got
producers.
Another plethora
of producers. Finally, today I wanted to talk about a Christmas movie on the Hallmark Network. It's called Navigating Christmas. And I'm going to read you the synopsis from Internet Movie Database, because I think it's perfect. Recently divorced, Melanie and her son Jason visit a remote island for Christmas, only to find themselves running a real working lighthouse where she connects with the curt but cute owner. Does that sound like a Hallmark movie or what?
Yeah.
Is that the definition of a Hallmark movie? And it's got everything. It's got the snow. It's got the hot chocolate. It's got the lighthouse. I mean, there's nothing not a whole lot more romantic than a lighthouse,
Hot
right?
chocolate.
Yeah, hot chocolate. It's the perfect Christmas movie. Checks off every single box if you're a Hallmark fan. And I know people who watch every new Hallmark movie when it comes on. This has been on a couple times before. I think it airs again on December 30th. And you can also probably find it on the Hallmark app. But it's Chelsea Hobbs and Stephen Huszar are the stars. They've been in probably a dozen of these Christmas movies between them. It's got the warmth, it's got the silliness, because I mean it's a color book. You could just go through and trace this movie based on what you know about Hallmark movies. But that's what you want with a Hallmark movie. You want it to follow that pattern. You know, I have the traffic person that I do KVTA with. She's a huge Hallmark fan, and every time I talk about one of these movies, she's all, "Aw." That's what you want from these Hallmark movies. You want a happy ending. You want, a little bit of trouble in the middle, and it all works out in the end. And this is just another one. The main reason I'm bringing this particular one up is because it was produced by our friend Jonathan Brownlee. So Jonathan, nice work on this. It's a perfect Hallmark film, and I hope it's doing well for you out there in Hallmark land. One last thing I want to talk about, because it's. What does that mean?
Just
Okay. There's a new series on Hulu. But don't let it fool you. It's not a new series on Hulu. Johnny, do you remember a Hugh Jackman movie called Australia?
Yeah, I do. And wasn't Nicole Kidman in that?
Nicole Kidman was in that.
I
as
remember
well.
that movie. I honestly can't remember if I saw it. I believe I did, but it was a long time ago. That was.
The director, Baz Luhrmann, has taken Australia, recut it, added additional footage, and turned it into a 3-hour and 45-minute miniseries. So you can watch it in 1-hour chunks and get more of Australia if you liked it, and less of Australia if you didn't like it, because you can turn it off, is what I'm saying. I didn't realize this is what they were doing. I started watching this movie and I thought, damn, Nicole Kidman looks good. Damn, Hugh Jackman looks good. And then, that's because it's 10 years ago. And this kid who's in this movie, whose name is Brandon. Where is Brandon?
Let's go, Brandon.
I can't find him right here. See, Internet Movie Database moved their casting things around, and now you got no idea where anything's at.
Now,
anymore.
is Brandon the character's name?
No, that is the kid's name.
Oh, his real name.
Yeah. See, he should be way up here, and he's.
Wow.
All right, I'm gonna have to find him another way.
Because I noticed
folks.
there was a character named Ramden.
Brandon Walters is the kid that is in this. And when I first started watching this and thought it was from a brand new series, I thought, this kid is incredible. What an amazing actor. And then Shelley looked him up and said he was 23. I'm looking at him going, there's no way that kid's 23. And sure enough, he's not. This was from the original version of the movie from 2008, was it?
2008.
So here's the thing about the original Australia. What are you pointing at, John?
What's the name of that up there? Far Away Downs.
Yeah, that's the name of the series now.
Oh, I thought you were looking.
Did I not mention that? I should have mentioned that. The Hulu series is called Far Away Downs, which is the farm where Nicole Kidman has her cattle. But the series the movie was Australia. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like Australia when I first saw it. I thought it was a big, epic Gone with the Wind kind of picture with a goofiness to it. It was more of a Harlequin goofiness to it. And that bothered me. And I didn't really care for the movie. The series is actually more the same, but I think with the stuff that Boz was able to add and the fact that you can take it in bite-sized chunks made it more tolerable to me. I could get through it more. Now, Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman did come in and do some voice work for scenes that they needed to have additional scenes on. They did come in and add voice work. You can't tell where those scenes are. It's seamless. it works just fine.
Well, that's like I think it was Rocky V. They after the movie was in the can, they came back and had to do extra scenes.
Okay, that's typical though.
But
we're talking.
So when you watch the movie, you're talking about many years later.
10 years later.
Oh,
no, 15 years later.
Okay.
So that's a big difference.
Yeah.
They always go back and reshoot scenes because of well, they don't always, but often they go back and reshoot scenes because things don't work. This case, they didn't reshoot anything. They just brought them in and had them voice over. Either the dialogue was lost or they needed to tweak it to make it say something else to make it work. And that's seamless in this as well. It's hard for me to recommend it because I didn't like the movie. I like the miniseries a little bit better just because it seems more well knitted, I should say. But it's longer. You got to commit to 3 hours and 45 minutes of it. So, check it out. If you were a fan of the movie, I highly recommend you check it out because there's a lot more here. And I also understand they changed the ending. I don't remember the original ending. I may have to go back and watch Australia just to see, but I didn't like this ending. So, that's just me.
What is Faraway Downs, the miniseries on?
It is on Hulu.
Okay.
It is on Hulu. So check that out on Hulu if you get a chance. All right. That's it, folks. Sorry. It's a short show today.
Real quickly.
Oh, this is what he meant by that. I got something else coming.
No, this is a Christmas thing, how we're talking about books and all that.
Navigating Christmas.
Janet
Hallmark.
Ivanovich has a series called it's Stephanie Plum series.
Mm-hmm.
And
never read it, but I've heard of it.
I've read some of her books. One book I really enjoyed reading was called Visions of Sugar Plums, and it takes place just before Christmas. I would like to see that one made into a Christmas movie. I think it would be Hallmark, if you're listening, which we know you are.
Well, is it a Hallmark style movie though?
I
got to have all the.
I think it could be.
It's already been a movie in 2001.
Oh, it was?
Yep.
Who was in it?
Actually, we don't know that it's that from that. Let's see if it's based on that. It's not based on that. A confused young man just out of the proverbial gay closet must choose between his lover of 9 months and his ultra-religious parents on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it's not.
Not that one?
No, this one is. It's a holiday treat, spicier than gingerbread with more nuts than a fruitcake.
What?
It's 4 days before Christmas and things are not looking merry for fugitive apprehension agent Stephanie Plum. She hasn't got a tree. She hasn't bought any presents. The malls are jam-packed with staggering shoppers. There's not a twinkle light anywhere to be seen in her apartment, and it goes on and on. I honestly think it would be make a good movie.
All right. Well, why don't you get some funding and put it together, and we'll get it in theaters.
Well, if I'm going to get some funding, it's going to be based on a book by my favorite author, which happens to be R. Scott Bolton, and his books are available on Amazon.com, and with Amazon Prime, you got free delivery. Great Christmas gifts. The most recent is Death and the Mogul. You should do a Christmas book, a Christmas story. That would be cool.
Actually, I probably shouldn't say this on the air, but once I discovered that Jonathan Brownlee was producing Hallmark movies, I am going to write a Hallmark movie for him.
Oh, sweet.
He doesn't know that yet, but Jonathan, check your email. It's coming soon. We'll see. But I got an idea in place. It's very edgy, so it probably won't work for Hallmark, but maybe it will.
I got to tell you, one of my fond memories, and I will say it is a fond memory of Jonathan Brownlee.
You already did. You said it twice now.
Yes, I did. Was his golf series.
That was fun.
Yes. And his home remodeling.
Also, that was actually even better than the golf show.
What do you call that?
Home remodeling show.
Yeah. Okay. Which probably, if I remember correctly, might have been one of the very first of all those home remodeling shows that are out there.
It was certainly in the early days. There's a lot more of them than there were then. Yeah. Jonathan Brownlee. Check him out on Internet Movie Database. Brownlee with Brownlee. Also does some work with Richard Band of Empire Pictures.
Jonathan, read Janet Ivanovich's
No.
Sugar Plum.
Do not read that. Wait for my script. Then we'll get to that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right. Once again, the Grape, folks, is one of our sponsors. It is the best jazz club in Ventura County. Maybe in all of Southern California. It is just an amazing venue. They have this terrific stage where they have not just jazz, but progressive rockers are coming through there now. They got Simon Phillips coming up in a couple of weeks. I hope to get to that show. They also have the longest bar in Ventura and the best cocktails in Ventura. They will make you anything you want. My favorite is always the Bill Murray. I go in and order the Bill Murray, and when you order a Bill Murray, they make you the drink they think you want. You don't get any input at all, and that's a lot of fun to see what they come up with. So anyway, go visit them at the Grape, and we'll see you folks next week with some more Christmas movies. Johnny, make sure you watch a Christmas movie. We're going to try to watch that
one I'm going to watch.
Eddie Murphy. We're going to try to Candy Cane Lane.
Candy Cane Lane.
So we'll try to review Candy Cane Lane next week. All right, folks, have a good one. We'll see you next week. Brought to you by The Grape, Ventura County's premier jazz venue and cocktail lounge, located at 2733 East Main Street in Ventura. For menu and music schedule, visit them online at thegrape.club. This has been a Rough Edge Studios production.